Hello, my name is Christopher Roy. I'm an orator and technician at our CSN Planetarium here in Las Vegas, Nevada, where you too can experience our desert skies. In this video, we're going to discuss the latest trend in environmental hazards for our planet that many people probably aren't aware of. But this new environmental hazard threatens our way of life as we know it. This threat is known as orbital debris. In our increasingly connected new age, it's no secret that our society is becoming ever more reliant on technology. We each feel the need to connect to others and share ourselves with our community. We have the ability to write our family and friends on a daily basis, some of which are thousands of miles away. We pay our bills, we buy most of our latest gadgets online. We enjoy the convenience of entertainment and security, of having limitless information at our fingertips. We literally have the world in our hands. Few people, however, pay any mind to what it takes to create such a vibrant world. We all see the wizard, so to speak, but we never really pay attention to the man behind the curtain, which is the massive infrastructure built all around us to keep our world together like clockwork. This is the power of worldwide communication, and the future of this power is relying more and more on the vast constellation of satellites doing our bidding from miles above our head. But why are we in space anyway? As a species on this planet that is developing at an exponential and alarming rate, there are many reasons why space is our new frontier with some pretty valuable real estate. Let's outline some of these reasons. At first, there was national defense. In response to Russia and the Cold War, military defense is easily argued as the real reason why we developed a space program in the first place during the 1960s. It started with the threat of Russia's Sputnik satellite, the first demonstration in history of an object being put into orbit around the Earth, and the possibility that such an object could be equipped with weapons of mass destruction. Currently, however, space is used by our military more as a vantage point to remotely monitor our neighbors around the globe. Civilians, though, are also heavily reliant on spacecraft for communication. Nowadays, the pace of our society demands an exceptional cadence in global communication. With growing demand for television, internet, phone service, satellite companies are one of the most lucrative industries in the world. Furthermore, we conduct tons of environmental science. It's no secret that our world is ever changing, from daily weather patterns to decade-scale climate change, as well as our space environment, rife with solar flares and potential asteroid impacts, both of which affect us greatly here on the ground. We need to understand and monitor these phenomena if we expect to survive as a species. How do we come to understand our world and our place in the cosmos? Well, education, of course. So, exploratory science missions, including space probes, manned missions, space telescopes, all of which have made great leaps to inspire humankind to achieve new technological heights. But these advances are not simply limited to space-related technologies. There are countless spin-off technologies originally designed for use in space, which are now integrated into our everyday use in countless industries, such as medicine and material science. So some of these technologies include computer chip miniaturization, which is an outcropping of many of the early manned spaceflight activities, which has revolutionized items we commonly use every day, from smartphones to tablets and TVs. Most of our health-related inventions, such as MRI machines, memory foam, smoke detectors, LED lighting, baby food even, infrared thermometers, dental ceramics, artificial limbs, heart pumps, all of which have their roots in NASA's space programs. So, how do we get to space? The short answer is with rockets, but there's more. Every rocket to date that's ever made it into orbit around the Earth has one basic design in common. This is called rocket staging. Rocket staging is the concept of stacking multiple rockets one on top of the other so that as one stage of fuel is depleted, that section and its weight will be jettisoned, allowing for the rest of the vehicle to continue into flight with an overall lighter mass. This is absolutely necessary in order to get any size of payload into orbit. The first stages of rockets usually fall back to Earth, as this stage doesn't reach orbital velocity. Most launch companies will drop this stage in the ocean after a single use as massive pieces of litter. However, there are many accounts of negligent companies or countries even launching overpopulated areas, eventually dropping these heavy booster segments onto people's land and even over their houses. After the primary boosters are jettisoned, the remaining upper section of a rocket is usually what carries its payload, usually a space probe or satellite, into a wide range of orbits at varying altitudes. But these upper stages often remain in space after payload separation as unusable space junk themselves. Combined with satellites, both working and dead, the sheer number of objects in space is growing so high that new launches these days have to take careful steps to weave and dodge their way up into orbit. In 1978, there was a NASA scientist named Donald J. Kessler who proposed a scenario in which the density of objects in Earth orbit would be so great that any collision of two objects would cause fragmentation debris, each piece of which would carry its own potential to collide with other objects. And pieces as small as a fleck of paint can become a serious hazard once they reach orbital speeds up to 18,000 miles an hour. As you can see in this photo taken from a returning space shuttle flight. Here. Also pictured here are high-velocity impact tests used to demonstrate the energies involved. Using a light gas gun, this 6-inch block of solid aluminum was nearly demolished after a ball of plastic weighing only half a gram was fired at it at 15,000 miles an hour. Devastating energies here. This orbital pollution scenario begins slowly, but over time this pattern would cascade into an irreversible disaster surrounding our planet, effectively landlocking any space vehicles from leaving the Earth, as the physical hazard to our equipment and crews would simply be too great. The real problem here is that space remains largely unregulated to this date, and the last widely agreed upon treaty hasn't been updated in over 5 decades, which mostly leaves the commercial space industries to police themselves. To illustrate this lack of regulation, on March 27th, 2019, India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, announced Mission Shakti to the world. Mission Shakti was India's first anti-satellite, or ASAT, weapon test, where a rocket was launched toward a satellite in orbit with a kinetic kill payload, designed to destroy a would-be enemy satellite by smashing it into 1,000 pieces. India is actually the 4th country in the world to carry out such a test, preceded by the United States, Russia, and China. NASA's agency chief, Jim Bridenstine, called India's test a terrible thing that could threaten the International Space Station. The concern refers to the growing problem of space debris that continues to build up in Earth orbit. NASA has identified and still tracks more than 400 pieces of orbital debris from this anti-satellite test alone. More than 60 of those pieces are larger than 10 centimeters in diameter. Again, moving at speeds in excess of 18,000 miles per hour, any one of these pieces of material has the energetic potential to seriously damage equipment and jeopardize lives. This is exactly the plot for the 2013 movie Gravity. The long-term danger of these types of tests is that each of these pieces of space junk carries the potential to obliterate any number of other satellites, which in turn fragment into hundreds more pieces of debris, each increasing the likelihood of their own collision, and so on. This concept, first hypothesized by Donald Kessler in 1978, is hence referred to as Kessler syndrome, or the Kessler effect, or simply collisional cascading. The event of July 2nd, 2018 is yet another example of this new growing environmental concern. The European Space Agency, ESA, realized that their Cryosat-2 satellite, which is used to monitor ice formations on our planet, was in serious danger. Engineers monitored a piece of space debris and predicted a high likelihood that it would plow directly into their $162 million piece of equipment. On July 9th, the European Space Agency was forced to fire the thrusters on Cryosat-2 in order to boost it into a higher orbit, effectively dodging the collision and saving the mission. 50 minutes after the boost maneuver, the debris flew past at a relative speed of 4.1 kilometers per second. These kinds of maneuvers are becoming more and more common as the space around Earth becomes increasingly congested. All this traffic can lead to disaster, and engineers and operators will not be able to avoid every single piece of debris, and each collision puts everybody's space equipment in danger. So, where do we stand today? There's over 100 million pieces of man-made debris flying around our planet. If we expect to continue our presence in space, we need to start taking this seriously or it will cost us. Over 160 Space Shuttle STS missions returned with window damage, putting our flight crews in peril, and each replacement costing between $30,000 and $50,000. The International Space Station continually needs to make orbital adjustments to avoid debris. And since it isn't possible to replace most parts on this space station, the crew is constantly at considerable risk. It doesn't just affect our operations in space either. Many satellites and debris also cause data pollution for astronomers on the ground, as their reflective bodies are often detected with telescopes, skewing delicate data collecting procedures, especially with asteroid tracking. Multiple satellites have already collided with one another in the past, costing millions of dollars and damaging our infrastructure for communication here on Earth. So, unchecked, our entire way of life is being challenged due to an impact on reliable communication, affecting our internet, GPS, global defense, weather monitoring, and emergency responders, just to name a few. So, moving forward, how do we mitigate this issue? Well, let's look at what I call retroactive measures. First, there is the capture and tow method. Scientists at NASA have suggested using capture methods to rein in dead, defunct satellites and deorbit them to burn up in Earth's atmosphere. Another method is known as ablative laser propulsion. This is where it's theoretically possible to use incredibly powerful ground-based lasers to either vaporize small pieces of debris or to induce small adjustments to the orbital velocity of larger objects, destabilizing their orbit and causing atmospheric reentry. Unfortunately, these methods are extremely costly, and the incentive for any one company to perform these retroactive measures is completely absent, rendering these options unlikely at best. On the other hand, with some clever engineering, it may be easier to avoid the problem of space debris altogether. Some proactive measures include, first, reusability. Private rocket companies already have a huge budgetary incentive to avoid creating debris in the first place by designing rockets that are reusable, returning them intact, and saving on fabrication costs. Some current hardware examples in use today are SpaceX's Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets, Virgin Galactic's Spaceship Two, Sierra Nevada Corporation's Dream Chaser, and Blue Origin's New Shepard vehicles. Another proactive measure is known as demisability. Demisability is the concept of having an end-of-life plan built into the spacecraft for the end of their mission, with the purpose of removing the vehicle from active orbital space around the planet. Some of these methods are using reserved fuel to deorbit the vehicle, deploying drag sails in low Earth orbit, gradually slowing the craft and again causing reentry, or boosting satellites into a designated graveyard orbit higher above the Earth so as to avoid collisions with active spacecraft. Although this last idea still poses a lesser but non-zero threat. So, like all environmental challenges here on Earth, we all have to make this effort together. As with any new advancement in human ingenuity, our technologies always seem to provide just as many challenges as they provide answers. Orbital highways above our planet are expected to become quite congested in the years to come, with thousands of spacecraft, most of which have met the end of their operating lifespan already, littering the increasingly demanded real estate surrounding our Earth. With the annual schedule of rocket launches steadily increasing each year, the amount of material orbiting our planet is reaching alarming new heights. The growing collection of this space junk around our planet may seem at first glance like a minor nuisance, but the truth of the matter, however, is it only took us 60 years to make it as serious of a situation as it already is. If we continue to neglect this issue, the future of our society, our evolving culture, and our way of life will be at stake. Instead, let's move into the future with care for our world. There's plenty of space to go around. I'm Christopher Roy. Keep your eyes on the skies. Thank you.